So good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this webinar on the global benefits of entering the NHS MedTech market access post-Brexit. And I've got some great success stories to share with you. We've got an outstanding panelists with us today. I'm so delighted. A lot of these people I've known for some time, and they are all great, and they offer great help and support for businesses interested in coming to this this market. So welcome. Today's webinar, we're going to start by talking about how the US government and the UK government can help you navigate your way into this country and the support that they offer. We've got brilliant to have John West join, who's an NHS manager up to his neck in all sorts of challenges, needing technology to solve them. So he'll be talking about what's it like in the NHS and how technology is needed. Then I'm delighted to bring a couple of great people together who have in themselves been really successful in getting their technologies into the NHS, both very different technologies, and I've got them on to talk about that. Then we have great to have Dawn join us, who's an expert in the new UK CA mark, a faster and easier way of getting regulatory approvals into the UK now we've left the European Union. So Dawn's going to be talking about what the UK CA mark is, how it's different to the CE mark, how it's quicker than the FDA, and talk about regulatory. And then I'm absolutely delighted to bring another person in who I know I've known for many years, who's helped many of my clients set up their businesses in the UK and knows all of the great ways and means of maximizing you know, the benefits of having a company here and how easy it is to do that. So I'm going to start off by everybody's going to introduce themselves, and then we'll run into the different segments. So there is a Q&A panel at the bottom that you can click if you've got any questions. Please ask them. But we'll start off with James. If you can just briefly introduce yourself.
Thanks, good afternoon, and I'm Jim Lindley. I'm the commercial counselor at the US Embassy here in London, and I've been here for 4 years now, and what a great opportunity. Thanks so much.
Thanks, James. Jeff?
Yes, good afternoon, thank you. Jeff Dillon, Vice Consul of the British Consulate, and welcome, and looking forward to a great discussion today.
Thanks, Jeff. Over to you, John. I don't know if John's on mute, but
bad failure. My name is John West. I'm Operational Service Manager in the NHS, and I work with Mike on a number of other things outside of the NHS. And I will hopefully let you into an insight of how things are and what the art of the possible can be and what the opportunities are, because it's quite challenging.
Thanks, John. Thank you for joining. Amit.
Hi, good morning. This is Amit Kukreja. I'm VP of Corporate Market Access at Massimo, and happy to be here today. Thanks, Mike.
Great, thanks, Amit. And Mike?
Good afternoon. My name is Mike Kuyak. I'm the President and CEO of Francis Medical, and I'm going to share with you my experience partnering with Device Access to get our therapy into the market.
Thanks, Mike. And Dawn?
Hi everyone, I'm Dawn Smiles, and I'm the Clinical Director and Founder of MedTech Consulting, and we partner a lot with Device Access and support customers with their regulatory challenges. Thank you.
Thanks for joining, Dawn. And finally, James.
Thanks, Mike, for putting this on. Hi everybody, my name's James. I'm a partner in Ori Law. I'm a US and UK attorney. Thanks, Mike.
Well, thanks everyone for the introduction. So I'm really excited today because literally about 11 o'clock, this thing hit my inbox. Boris Johnson has announced a bold new life science vision. And based on our success of getting regulatory approvals faster than other countries and other areas of the world, particularly the European Union, we managed to launch a vaccine quicker, get it into patients faster, and that's the backbone of Boris's vision in terms of accelerating the pace of technologies adoption into the health service and helping the country to become the place to come to prove and and try and introduce great technologies. So there are a number of things they're very interested in: cardiovascular disease, vaccine discovery, respiratory disease, other things. So it's quite an exciting day today to see this, and there's going to be a big push and lots of investment from the government behind this. So that was very, very exciting to read about this morning. So just a bit about Device Access. We are a company that helps predominantly US companies to succeed in the UK healthcare system, the National Health Service, or NHS. And we've been around for 11 years, and my background is medical devices since 1989. One of the big success stories for me was I ran a vascular company called Venus Medical Technologies, and that's how I met Dawn, who's joining us today. That was a new treatment which basically enabled patients to be treated with a minimally invasive approach for varicose veins, and that was a huge success story. I took that device straight to the top of the NHS, and they announced it across the system and said it was a great product. That led to interestingly, a big success story for the company, which sort of led to and helped a bit in the acquisition of the company to Covidien in 2009. So I have a big background over 20 years in launching medical devices, not just Venus, but other things like gastric bands, endovascular grafts, lots of different things. So big background in bringing tech to the UK and set this up to help other companies succeed. So what we do is we have found that by taking companies and technologies through NICE, and NICE, who is our HTA body, I described them to US companies as like the JD Power to our healthcare system. So their job is to find the best, the safest, the most cost-effective treatment, and then announce them across the NHS and tell the NHS that they're definitely worth buying. And hospitals do have a contractual obligation to abide by guidance from NICE. So they're legally bound to use technologies that NICE recommends. So it's a really, really good way of getting technologies approved across the country, nationally. And for that, to do that, we offer services around supporting companies and understanding the evidence that they have, whether they have enough for NICE, what evidence they need to get the product paid for. We have a license with NHS Digital that enables us to look at over 1.2 billion claims records across the country. So we have access to inpatient care episode data in hospital, and that gives us really good insights into what's happening in the system and how technology can improve outcomes. And then we also have a part of the company that does lots of publications demonstrating cost effectiveness of treatments, and we've been doing a lot of that. So market access is complicated. This particular news article refers to one we did, and we're glad to have Mike Kuyak from ex-Nexera. We made this happen for their company, but it's complicated. But again, we want to try and get your great technology to patients as fast as possible. And the fundamentals of what we do are all on this slide, really. We understand, companies come to us with technologies, and what we do is we think of them in the same way as an HTA, or health technology assessment body, would is okay, so you've got a technology, so who really needs it, and what happens today to those patients, and what's the difference when we apply your technology to that population? What is the difference? And the outcome is basically that, is what difference would it make to patients, providers and payers if your technology was adopted? So this is known as PICO, and we work very much in the P, the C and the O part of this quadrant. So the principles of the way we help companies fall back into what we call the principles of market access, and that's making sure that technologies that come to us, the products you guys develop, really strongly benefit the patient. They benefit the care providers and hospitals that use them. That in turn benefits the payer who pays for them. And then at the end of the day, your product's got to benefit from being commercially successful. So optimization of selling prices, our goals is making sure that you get the greatest value out of this adventure as well. So that's a bit of an introduction to what we do. What I'd like to do now is introduce James to talk about his work at the US Commercial Service and how he supports companies interested in coming here. So over to you, James.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Thank you so much, and thank you to the Device Access team and everyone for putting this fantastic event together today, and also great to see Jeff Dillon from the UK DIT all working together with us to put on this great event. Very timely, obviously. Certainly, MedTech is a very important industry and part of the huge bilateral trade relationship we have going between the US and UK. For those, I think everyone probably knows, but just to reiterate, UK was the 7th largest trading partner with the US, with over $109 billion in total trade in goods and 125 billion in services in 2020. So really a robust relationship. And according to most recent figures, US exports of goods and services to the UK supported over 665,000 US jobs. So really a robust relationship. When talking specifically about MedTech, the US is the 3rd largest source of medical technology products for the UK, accounting for about 13% of imports. It's also the largest supplier outside of the EU. And the UK is the 11th largest top supplier of medical technology to the United States. So very important as well. So, just to talk a little bit about who we are with the US Commercial Service, we're part of the US Department of Commerce, housed inside the International Trade Administration. We are the export promotion arm of the United States government. And so our efforts are specifically focused on helping US companies, small, medium, and large. They're trying to find new markets, export product, learn about the different markets out there, and make connections with potential partners. So we have officers and staff in about 80 different countries around the world, and then a domestic field of staff that is trade specialists that are in over 100 different cities in the United States, all geared towards trying to help US companies make connections in overseas markets. Specifically related to the MedTech industry, we've got about 250 staff that work on the healthcare industry portfolio, 80 of which are located in our domestic field offices in the United States. Then about 170 people in offices around the world also focused specifically on the healthcare industry. So through a lot of our export promotion programs, we've supported US MedTech companies to establish connections with local industry partners and various NHS agencies in the past, such as NHS Digital, the Academic Health Sciences Network, and many hospital trusts around the country. Cheryl Withers is on the line. She's our trade specialist or commercial specialist that focuses on the healthcare industry. And we're both very happy to help anyone who's interested. We also lead a lot of delegations and support existing and potential MedTech exporters at trade fairs. We have a big presence at Medica in Dusseldorf, typically features a pavilion of around 700 US exhibitors. And then we do a lot of other industry events, often in collaboration with UK healthcare partners like Device Access, among others. So we also have a fantastic new embassy facility here in London. And so we do host a lot of major events. We do company promotional activities to help US companies kind of get the word out about the great, fantastic, innovative technologies that they have out there. We also do the flip, where we can support UK MedTech organizations and companies, help understand the US marketplace. We have the Select USA program, which is focused on FDI development. And we actually recently had a MedTech trade mission to the United States not so long ago, which was in relation to the Select USA Summit, which is an annual event focused on investors, not just from the UK, but from markets all over the world. So anyway, we've got a pretty dynamic and robust bit of programming that we can help people with, whether you're looking at the UK market specifically or other markets out there. But then also we do have some ways to help investors that are trying to tap into the US market, understand some of the different nuances of the different states out there, and always happy to help. So once again, thank you so much. Glad to be here, part of the program. Thanks a lot, Mike. I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much, James. And yeah, I was encouraged to learn not that long ago, there's been a 25% increase in US companies incorporating in the United Kingdom in Q1 this year. So there's a huge opening up, and that's really encouraging to see. So thank you so much for joining, Jim. And yeah, so very excited to bring Jeff Dillon from the Department of International Trade. Jeff's based in Boston, so Jeff will talk about what he does and how he helps companies as well. Over to you, Jeff.
Good afternoon, Mike, and thanks to you as well as Device Access for your support and creating this call and all your hard work and efforts in making so many companies successful. This is a remarkable time to work currently with the NHS to support their goal and our goal of technology enhancement and innovation That being said, the Department of International Trade has a global mission to drive cross-trade success. Whether you're going into the UK or US or other markets, we're here for you as government officials. We have offices across the globe, and our actions or support staff will assist with whether it be NHS, FDA, NICE interactions, access to venture capital, talent acquisition, real estate, legal support, et cetera, et cetera. So going through this today, moving forward, I suggest you all think of just how can we help you? How can we drive your success? We're here for you. Please reach out. And again, appreciate the opportunity to chat today. Looking forward to the discussion. Back to you, Mike.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff, and really great to have you on. It's been a number of years now. I've been working closely and collaboratively with the DIT team across the US, and you'll find that they have sector specialists in MedTech dotted across the US, and yeah, great connections to have to help you and give you guidance and support in your move. So I'm really delighted to have James and Jeff. Thank you so much for joining today and offering your support. And so yeah, great. So moving on to really the NHS, and delighted to bring John onto this and talk about his role at the NHS and why they need technology. And I know it's been a real tough year tough many months, actually, over a year with the whole COVID situation for the NHS. So I really wanted to spend some time, you know, from John's perspective. He runs a hospital and, you know, has to look after, obviously, clearly patients, but run the business of a hospital, and I wanted to bring John in to talk about what the NHS needs from technology and some guidance. So John, I'll let you kick off with your background and what you do and why technology is important.
Thanks, Mike. So welcome everyone, and it's fascinating to hear everyone's insight into how we can make healthcare in the UK and across the globe better and more efficient and more productive for everyone involved. So my background is years ago I was a nurse. I'm still registered, but about 12 years ago, I went into operational management, and I've worked across all surgical and most medical specialties, managing their services. And where I am today is managing the largest fragility fracture centre in Europe. So we have the largest lower limb fractures the largest number of lower limb fractures emergencies in Europe coming to our hospital as a single location. So I've been thinking about what Mike's asked was, what is the need of technology in the NHS? And it's kind of twofold to explain the background. So pre-COVID, we always talk about pre and post-COVID, but we haven't quite got to the post bit. So pre-COVID, the NHS was working flat out. So it was working at 100% capacity. It had around 2.5 million patients on its elective waiting list. And to put that into context, so around 97% of all healthcare is delivered through the NHS in the UK, and 100% of all emergency healthcare is delivered through the NHS. So we were working flat out and not quite achieving what we wanted to achieve pre-COVID. So we were working hard. We were keeping on top of our waiting list. It wasn't really growing, but we needed to do things better. And as we were just starting to do things a little bit better, a little bit more effectively, COVID comes along and throws everything out of the window. So in that time, our waiting list size, elective waiting list size has doubled. So it's over 5.5 million patients waiting for their first treatment on an elective waiting list. So that is a tip of an iceberg scenario. So there's lots of other patients underneath that 5.5 million awaiting their first treatment. And then, as our new health secretary has stated, we've still got over 7 million patients who haven't come forward for their treatment. So if you put that into context of where the NHS is, it's still working at 100% capacity. It probably has less productivity because through COVID restrictions, we've had to change the way we work and how we deliver care, which has made us a little bit less efficient. Some of that's eased off slightly as we've got to grips with it. But fundamentally, we need to get back to over 100% capacity to deliver, to catch up on those patients waiting on our waiting lists. We don't have 100% more capacity to deliver 100% more care to catch up in a reasonable time frame. So we can't build the hospitals, we don't have the workforce, we don't have the infrastructure to deliver that. We don't have the finances. No one in the world would have that level of finances to deliver that doubling in the size of healthcare. So we've got to do things differently. So we can work better, we can work harder. That's difficult in a post or transitioning COVID world because our workforce is very challenged. They're very tired, they're very broken. So we have to be a little bit cognizant of those pressures. So how do we work better? How do we work smarter? We have to look to technology to deliver those benefits. We can't do the same as things we've always done in the same way, because that won't get us to where we need to be. We need to get things right for our patients and for our service. I think that's a fairly headline summary without going into loads of detail about a waiting list, how big we are and the rest of it, because I think that's probably, I could talk about that all day, but how's that, Mike?
That's a really good starting point. Lots of things to think about there. But I mean, fundamentally, you know, I know we've had you on a number of webinars over the last you know, couple of years, and in fact, we met through me helping Mike Kuyak from Nextera at the time in introducing you know, this novel treatment for prostate, which we'll hear more about shortly. But you know, as a test case, I think you know, when you engage with industry, I mean, how often do you get to meet them? Because I guess you get a lot of doctors coming to you with ideas about new treatments and new technologies. You know,
I think we can, if we blink and ignore the COVID years, I think, you know, it's a regular occurrence that that doctors come through with a product or a device, but it's sold to the hospitals as clinical benefit. And I don't mean that we shouldn't be looking at it that way. It's that no product really gets to market unless it has a tangible, positive healthcare outcome and clinical outcome. But that doesn't mean it's the right thing for an organization to do. It's got to change track of doing what it knows. It's got to get off the railroad of known risk, known things, and quantifiable action to take on a new product or new device or new service to do something that's slightly unknown. And generally that gets sold to the NHS based on clinical outcomes and clinical benefit, which is great because no product really gets there. But what is the benefit to the whole patient pathway? What's the value to those patients in secondary care and primary care? So that's talking about GPs and general practice. What is the benefit of adopting a new product or service across that whole pathway? Because that's the bit that really gives value. That's the bit that we really need to make a difference on. We can't keep just banging the same old drum we've done for the last few years, because it's not achieving anything. So we've got to look at how we market and how we have those conversations with providers to say, okay, you've got an issue. This product helps clinically. This makes the care better. It gives a better patient outcome. This is the benefit for the whole of the patient pathway.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting, isn't it? And I know there have been some recent changes in the structure of the NHS and commissioning with the what's known as the ICSs. Can you just sort of summarise how, you know, you think that will work out in terms of the flow of care and managing of care from primary and into secondary care and vice versa?
So there's a very detailed paper going to Parliament midsummer, which has just been published, which sets out in 274 pages of detail, which I did try and read. I got to about page 200. But that premise is, so at the moment, the NHS is set up with commissioners and providers, and there's a contracting mechanism between the two, whether that's in social, whether that's in acute care or in community care. And there's a contracting and competitive element between those to fight for the same money. What, in summary, the ICS structure does is to actually bring all those people together to say, we're looking after this population in this area with X amount of money. How can we best spend that across all of our organizations to deliver the right outcomes? So it moves away from a purely competitive type structure to a more supportive and collaborative structure of organizations to come under one umbrella.
Sure, that's good to hear. Again, we don't want to go into too much detail, but I think that what that means for the medical device industry is that that you know, if you can demonstrate that a technology is going to make a difference across that patient's life, not only whilst they're in hospital but in primary care as well, then those solutions are going to be looked at more centrally than before. And on the budgetary side as well, at the moment there's been a slight reset in the way that funding's going on in the NHS, which leaves the opportunity for more flexible approaches to funding new treatments and technologies, which is encouraging as well. And I think that's come about by the need for the NHS to be more flexible, particularly as they have these 5 million patients waiting, or 5.5, I think you mentioned, it's gone up, John, patients waiting for elective care. So in terms of sort of decision making in a hospital, I'm just interested. You know, we know that you think technology is important and it needs to solve problems, but you know, in terms of decision making processes, you know, how much easier is it if a technology's been recommended by NICE from your perspective, John?
It ticks quite a big box on the approval process. So, you know, we're a public body, so we have, you know, clear governance structures which because we're spending public money on these services, so we have to go through a governance process to implement spend our taxpayers' money. So having a nice recommendation, guidance, or is really important. It's one of the key questions that gets asked: is this something that is supported and recommended by NICE? And that is quite a large leverage, because if we don't do things recommended by NICE, we have to justify why we're not doing it, because, you know, not the whole process of NICE to say this is the best evidence-based practice, this is the best evidence-based piece of technology, this is the best evidence-based way to design a service. So why would you not be doing that? And it puts us in a quite a difficult position if we're saying we're not going to do it, because what you're ultimately you're saying you're not going to follow what is agreed as the best way to do something.
Yeah, sure, John. I think, and you mentioned this before, as a manager, that you know, the horizon scanning part of NICE is important. Again, NICE is the organisation I described earlier as the JD Power to the NHS system. So their job is to look for safe, effective and cost-effective treatments, and then they recommend their use across the health service. So that was John's perspective on why that's important. So yeah, so that's been really helpful to hear. So summary is NHS needs technologies, value propositions across the whole care pathway are really important, and yeah, big change is out there. There's a lot of discussion about digital technologies as well. So yeah, so I really appreciate that feedback, John, and that summary of what it's like today in the NHS for you. So thank you. So I think we'll now go on and to introduce you to Mike Kuyak and Amit Kukreja from you know, the previous roles. Actually, these slides are running in slightly wrong order. I'll just go back to them. Right. So what I'd like to do is introduce you first of all to Mike Kuyak from he's currently moved away from Nextera to a new role, but he's really here to talk about his role before his current role. And so over to you, Mike.
Good afternoon. Thanks again, Mike, for inviting me to speak, and just the experience I had working with the NHS and obtaining NICE recommendation and device access was very thorough and very enjoyable. What we were bringing to the UK market when I was working for Nextera was a minimally invasive treatment / technology for BPH, which is benign prostatic hypertrophy or enlarged prostate. And you heard from the previous panelists, really the value proposition for our technology was that patients could be treated and discharged that day, saving the NHS bed days. Current treatment in the NHS at that time was TURP, transurethral resection of the prostate. And there was a high number of bed days where patients had to spend the night in the bed. And we were able to, with our technology, have the patient treated minimally invasively and then have them go home that day. And you know, you saw Mike speak to the added value to each of the 4 Ps. One of the things nice about Resume, which was the name of the technology, is it checked all 4 boxes. You know, before even going to the UK market, you know, we hired Device Access, and you know, they laid out a plan of attack through their network. Both people that were employees, but also people who were consultants to Device Access. And they helped us identify and work with the UK key opinion leaders the right ones to represent us, not only locally through the different NHS trusts, but also as it relates to starting the NICE process as it relates to the recommendations. They also did a great job of helping us find a distributor and partnered with that UK distributor to drive utilization at these centers. Prior to coming to the UK market, while we had CE mark, we had no usage in the UK. And so Device Access really helped us identify, which centers would be the best ones based on the value and the need to reduce the number of bed days. The process was really easy to follow. And working with Mike and his team, they work side by side, but it does take time. So, one thing that, I learned from the process is to lay it all out, which they did, but be patient. It doesn't happen overnight, and make sure you understand the timeline to obtain NICE recommendations, and make sure you communicate that back to your constituents at your company. The overall NICE recommendation was extremely important to our business, not only in the UK, because once we received it, usage just took off after obtaining the NICE recommendation. But it also helped our business in other European countries as well as throughout the world, because NICE recommendation is kind of seen as and this is more of a US term, good housekeeping seal of approval. And it really helped us, and it validates the technology when you do go through the process of obtaining NICE recommendation. That's pretty much all I have, Mike. I don't know if you have any questions for me or if you want to move on to Amit next.
Yeah, I mean, so what did it sort of mean for the business then? The value of Nextera when you were successful in the NHS. What did it sort of mean for the business?
Yeah, it helped drive revenue, but it also helped drive the valuation of the company. As you know, Nextera was sold to Boston Scientific in May of 2018, and having that process in place, I don't believe we had complete NICE recommendation at the time, but having the process put together and in place really helped add value to the overall value of the company from an acquisition perspective.
Yeah. That's great to hear. It was an absolute pleasure to work with you on that, and a good case study to share. And thank you for joining, Mike, to talk about your experiences with the NHS, and thank you for bringing the technology here and for helping to solve the problem of this disease in the population here, and helping more patients to be treated faster, which is really important. So really appreciate you coming here. So Amit, over to you. Really, I'm just love to hear more about your journey and what you did here, bringing what was a highly complex and highly expensive technology to market. And I know Amit, you've had a lot of experience across multiple geographies, not just the US and UK. And I'm intrigued to hear your view of the market and how you did it.
Sure. Thanks, Mike. Thanks for inviting me and letting me to share the story of Second Sight. But no, I think also before I go, it was really encouraging, but also, in many ways I can correlate with what Mike was sharing about Nextera's journey. In many ways, I had a very similar journey. So I think I'll just emphasize on some of the common denominators. Currently, I'm with Massimo, but let me share the story of Second Sight, which was the product I led for over 9 years and took it through several international markets. You said it's a high, expensive product. I like to call it high cost, high value. I think it certainly was one of the revolutionary product of the last decade. In my experience with that technology, taking the artificial vision implant through several markets, I would say UK journey stood out. for several reasons that Mike just laid out. But I would also say overall it was a great experience, yet not without major and significant barriers and hurdles to overcome. So I'll just kind of touch upon some nuances there. But just to highlight, UK, not only from market access standpoint, but broadly from evidence generation standpoint as well, stood out for us. That UK was the number one market where we actually developed all our clinical evidence. And then eventually, through the payer evolution process, we had several upsides because we were in UK already during the evidence generation phase. But if I can simplify, there were two things that I can say were the key challenges. Number one, when you have a groundbreaking technology like artificial vision implant or bionic eye, as some would say, it's such a futuristic concept, which happens with many innovations. Actually, more and more innovations are in that category nowadays, where peers cannot correlate to the possibilities of doing something like that in the near term. So we had the similar challenge. We kind of maybe started with NICE back in 2009-10 time, and then eventually 2011-12 is when we really formally started to get some headwinds. But I think the first challenge I would say was just kind of how do you get patients, physicians, medical societies, anyone who is part of the payer evaluation process, how do you get them to believe in the benefits of the technology? You got some limited evidence. It always is the case that evidence for medical technology will always be seen as very limited in scope and impact early on. So just going through the whole grassroots level education, lobbying, convincing with clinical data, but also with real world patient stories was probably the biggest issue for us when we entered the UK. And I think there again, engaging your services and others during that process is, I think, one of the key decisions we made, and really helped us in identifying how to navigate through the process. So that's kind of is really key. The second biggest challenge was, of course, how do you figure out what payers are looking for from clinical data standpoint, economic data standpoint, and beyond, life issues. Every payer speak about these issues, but very few in the world actually break that down for you in terms of here are the specifics. Based on your technology, this is what we are looking for. If you do A, B, C, we are going to be adopting your technology, or we'll take a serious look at the upsides of the benefits. You don't get that kind of guidance unfortunately, with most payers. But I think NICE has been, NICE is certainly is a benchmark, as Mike was saying, worldwide. When the decision is made, when a recommendation is made, every payer in the world, or I would say most payers, would see it as a credible place to go and refer to that decision. But I would say even before that, to figure out what is needed in your clinical trial, which is, I think, is the biggest question every company should be thinking about when you're planning a regulatory process and beyond. There are not that many payers that will give you clear guidance. Sometimes it's by design, because even they don't know, they're figuring it out. Unlike regulatory bodies where everything is written in stone in a way, or as close as it can get. Regulations are much more cleaner in a way. With payers, everything is so fuzzy that you may have tons of feedback, but eventually you may still not know exactly what's needed. So I think that's where I would say NICE stands out, because recently they launched a new process called Meta, for which I'm going through that process for my current project, and it's been phenomenal to see a tool like that, which truly lays out individual pieces of the puzzles in black and white, and really challenges you to think through that process. I think it's a wonderful tool. I wish more and more payers would have something like that in each country, since requirements really changes. So those combination of those things kind of is really key. Understanding what evidence do you need and having specifics about that, and then eventually be able to execute by having help and feedback from the payer. So that was kind of two things. Eventually, even if it was a pretty hard journey, we were able to establish this technology in several countries, and UK's recommendation or analysis was pretty significant and well utilized. ultimately this was I think the highest paid outpatient procedure in the US as of 2020. France, Germany, Canada, and a couple of other markets, kind of when they did the assessment, we leveraged everything we did in UK during those procedures as well. So I would say, bottom line, UK is a doorway to prepare yourself when you're going to enter other markets. If you have gone through the UK process well, you have followed the guidance, you have engaged with NICE, you're probably really well prepared before you start meeting with international payers or engaging or going through the submission process. And I think that's the most differentiated value to work with NICE and NHS stakeholders. So I'll just stop there, and if you have any questions or any other topic I should expand.
No, thanks, Amit. I mean, that was a really, really interesting summary, and I really appreciate that feedback. I think what's surprising is about evidence as well. Is does the UK accept evidence generated in other countries? And I know that was all part of what you were doing, using evidence generated in other countries for UK assessment. But so long as the evidence is peer-reviewed, published, or presented in English language and follows the same care pathway as the NHS does, and all those care pathways are publicly available, then that evidence can be taken by NICE for assessment. So you don't need to generate evidence within the United Kingdom to be successful. So no, thanks. I know you also touched on the MedTech Early Technical Assessment service that we offer. Again, having something where you can do a mini HTA, pre-HTA, has been proven to be a very popular service for us, and a way that we can really help to reduce the risk of companies going to NICE too early. So I'm delighted to hear that feedback as well, Amit, about how useful that's been so far. So there you go. So thank you to really appreciate having Mike and Amit. I know we're getting some questions we'll answer at the end. Please put them in the chat box. And no, thank you for talking about your success stories and how you got here into the NHS. So now I'm going to hand over to Dawn Smiles and later on James Ory. Delighted to have these two guys on board because they offer very complementary services to device access, and very important services, particularly around regulatory and legal, and the benefits of incorporating a company here in the UK. So I'd like to introduce you to Dawn Smiles. Dawn has some slides to share. So whilst I am presenting mine, I'm going to have to stop share so she can do hers. And Dawn will be talking about the new UKCA, which is our new CE mark, and outlining its simplicity and how it's quick and easier than others. But I'll let Dawn explain that. So Dawn, if you want to present your slides, it's over to you. Cool.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you, Mike. And
if you want to go full screen on that, you might.
Yeah,
help.
Is that okay?
That's it.
Work for you?
Perfect. Yeah.
Thank you. Perfect. I had to do slides because it adds a little bit of colour and excitement to what most people would find quite a dry topic. I mean, I don't find it dry, but a lot of people do, and I understand that. So thank you for having me, Mike.
You're welcome.
And yes, so I'll just start just by sharing a bit about my background. So I'm a qualified biomedical and vascular scientist with postgraduate qualifications in advanced medical imaging. Now, I worked for the NHS as a microbiologist for 4 years before moving into medical sales, where I built my reputation in both the pharma and the medical device industries. I've now spent over 22 years working in healthcare. I'd like to think I look a lot younger than that. Whether within the NHS or within industry, I've worked in both, and I set up MedTech Consulting about 10 years ago now. So our services, they basically include market access and UK and EU regulatory support and advice. And I've prepared some slides, just a small handful, and just to take you through the opportunities for technologies and how the UK regulatory landscape has changed post-Brexit. So I've only got 5 minutes, so I'm gonna keep this brief. But currently, the UK is recognising CE mark without any kind of restriction until the 1st of July 2023. Now, from the 1st of July 2023, all manufacturers, no matter where they're located in the world, who are selling a medical device or an IVD into Great Britain must have a UKCA mark. Now, just to note, different rules do apply for Northern Ireland because of the Northern Ireland Protocol. And I'm not going to go into detail about this because I haven't got time, but to keep it simple, you need a CE mark to sell into Northern Ireland, and that's the easiest way to look at it. Now, the UK is not adopting the MDR or the IVDR, which I'm sure you're all well aware of now. We are continuing with the directives, so the MDD, the IVDD, and the AIMDD. So the previous EU legislation, which has now been updated into UK law and is known as the UK MDR 2002. So currently, the UK MDR 2002, as it stands today, closely follows the directives. Now, how long will it stay like that? Well, not very long. I can't give you exact dates at this stage, but what I can tell you is that it's a short-term measure as the UK begins to build on the UK MDR 2002 and create its own regulatory landscape. The good news being that the UK is still the easiest market to gain regulatory approval because our legislation closely follows the old EU directives. So what is the UK's new regulatory landscape going to look like? Well, the UK introduced the Medicines and Medical Devices Act in February this year. Now, this act allows the UK to set its own level of legislation responsible for the regulation of medicines, medical devices, clinical trials, and veterinary medicines. Now, this legislation will allow the government to make changes through creating secondary legislation that will supplement or amend the current UK MDR 2002. So what I really want to stress here is that the UK want to retain and build on the safety aspects of the legislation and make the UK attractive to inward investment. So the UK aims to be the most attractive international market into which to bring your product or innovation, and the intention really is to keep it that way. So now the MHRA, which is the UK's competent authority, has been set the task to design, consult, and implement this new legislative framework for medical devices, which will support ongoing access to products with the aim of providing an environment in which to support safe innovation and encourage developers to bring products to the UK market. Now, the consultation is expected to be published by the end of October this year, with relevant statutory instruments due by Q2 2022. So there's your time frame. So the MHRA's plan was published earlier this week, so it was the 4th of July. I think that was Monday. And they have consulted extensively to ensure they can create the best system possible. And, you know, the UK will continue to be a favourable environment. And what that means is the MHRA want to retain and build on the safety and efficacy aspects of the legislation, but make the UK very appealing to prospective investors. So a good place for companies to come and start their commercial journey, yet they want to remove the more difficult and less useful red tape whilst not diminishing the patient safety element of it all. And the plan that was published sets out 14 objectives, which have been grouped into 6 central themes, which are up on the slide here. So, and those central themes include scientific innovation, healthcare access, patient safety, dynamic organization, collaborative partnerships, financial sustainability. I had to put this on, but you know, the UK, everybody who's listening, you know, we need your innovation, we really do. And the priority really is to deliver better patient and public involvement and putting patients first and really ensuring that our patients in the UK receive the most innovative products available. So we'd just like to invite you to get in touch. And of course, finally, you know, if and when you need any support to navigate this, we're here to help. And my contact details are up there, but of course you can go through device access if you're wanting any regulatory support. So there we go, Mike. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Dawn. That was probably one of the most easiest to follow regulatory presentations I've ever seen, and not that many.
I tried to do that. Yes,
Absolutely.
thank you.
That's really good. So thank you, Dawn. Yeah, no, that was very helpful. So, and encouraging. I think one of the things that we are really passionate about, and I don't know if John wants to talk about this as well, just come in on this, is the whole artificial intelligence world that we are entering. And it's something that we as a country are not scared of, whereas we know that the European Union have a real problem with AI and privacy and all that stuff. So I think that you know, the overregulation stifles innovation, and so we have a really good you know, a new open regulatory opportunity of getting a technology through those regulations quicker. And I've been really encouraged. I've been on several calls with Dawn, who's got some fantastic relationships with BSI and other organizations, and listening to how you know, they've helped many of my clients. It's been a great working with Dawn and having her support. So thank you so much, Dawn.
No, you're welcome.
I wanted to bring in, I'm really excited because this guy's always really busy, because he's always brilliant at what he does, as well as is my good friend James Ory. James, I'm sure you're there, and please share your slides. Delighted to have you on board. James and I met several years ago. He might talk about that journey, but James will talk about how to get you know, what the benefits are, and how to bring your company to the United Kingdom, and all the support that he can offer. So James, over to you.
Mike, thank you very much. Thank you for putting this together. So I'm a British lawyer that's now based in the United States. I'm a US attorney as well, but truthfully, I am also somebody who involves myself in building and scaling medical technology companies. So it's a pleasure to meet you all today. I'm going to try and give you as much information as possible in 8 minutes or so, Mike, I think I've got. And I've actually written this deck for the benefit of everybody today, so that there's a lot more detail in here. And it deals in some substance with the question of attracting investment into a UK company. And I've built into the deck quite a lot of detail around suggested structures. And I won't have time to deal with that today, but I just thought it would be really helpful for everybody on the call. So the two areas I really want to touch on today are, first, how easy it is to set up a UK company. And I'm going to keep it very brief. The short answer is, it's easy. You can form a UK company, which is a separate entity, not dissimilar from a C Corp or an LLC in the United States, within about a week. And you can have non-resident directors, i.e. you can all be based in the United States. And the minimum capital that you need for it is £1. So whatever the exchange rate is at the moment, it's nominal. So the British government, the sort of regulatory environment around companies is actually very similar to what you would expect in Delaware, if you're familiar with that jurisdiction particularly. So it's easy to set up. There's clear guidelines on directors' duties and how you operate a company. And I'll sort of leave it there. I think the big commercial takeaway is that once you've set up a UK company, you have a vehicle that within the United Kingdom is seen as having a trading presence. And I think that that makes significant difference in the business development conversations you'd be having, the interactions you'd be having with regulators, grant makers, etc. So I've written this deck with the last sort of 5 minutes, as I say, with this idea of how you raise capital in the United Kingdom. And I'm going to pass through really the sort of structuring concepts that I've built into this deck, which I hope, Mike, will help everybody, and really move into, I think, broader themes, which is that our current company tax rate is 19%, which is very competitive. And this tax rate needs to be understood in the context of an additional relief, which is particularly available for medical technology companies. This relief has been in existence for many, many years. What it is a research and development relief that is based on the concept of solving a technical uncertainty. And if you meet that definition, then in very high level terms, you're entitled to claim £33 in every £100 that is spent on eligible research and development. Now, there needs to be a very genuine need. This is not a sort of tax avoidance scheme to establish yourself in the UK and trade from the UK. But your intellectual property and your research and development team does not need to be based in the United Kingdom. And so you have this interesting really attraction really that the British government built for medtech companies, that, you know, A, we're open for business, but B, what we're prepared to do if you set up in the UK with a genuine intent to trade is to offer you a pretty strong incentive in pure cash back from the UK government to undertake research and development. And that could be in the United States, it could be in India, it could be elsewhere. The relevance of that is that a lot of companies find that they use that for the benefit of an extended runway from a cash flow perspective. It does also include clinical trials, and so could be very, very helpful there. There is a proposal to bring in caps to that particular tax credit. And I'm not going to go into all the detail again, I've put it into the slide. But what I would say, it's a real thing. It's used very much by UK companies. And so the concept of setting up quickly and then imagining that some of your revenue spent on R&D could actually benefit from a cash kickback and then a longer planning horizon, I think positions the UK very competitively actually for medtech companies. So I'll leave it there, Mike, I think. Plenty to add. I've added in some structuring information. Anybody's welcome to email me.
No, thank you so much, James. It's really encouraging to hear about that, and I don't think that whole arrangement has changed in many years, has it? Not that I can remember, anyway, of these great credits. And so for many clients that we work with that are based in the United States that want to conduct clinical research for the purposes of getting their technology recommended by NICE. Set up a UK entity because it enables them to also participate in the ability to get research funding, of which there's over £1 billion worth of money set aside in the NHS for funding clinical research studies. So you could, if you came to the United Kingdom and set up a UK subsidiary, co-apply with an investigator, that'd be a consultant surgeon, and his hospital and facility to gain access to research funding as well. So normally we have the participants on our webinars from the the National Institute of Health Research, or the NIHR, which is the sort of UK's version of the NIC in the US. So we have that. Sorry, the NIH. I'm getting all these NICs. It's the NIH equivalent. So we have one of those as well, and they offer a great way of connecting medtech companies to the research infrastructure, and that's a whole other webinar. But we do describe the benefits of using the NIH or the NIHR in many of our webinars that we have, and they are available on Spotify and on the Apple Store if you want to download and listen to them. But I've been really impressed with today's webinar and having such a great bunch of people on today. We do have some questions, a couple here. One we've got really aimed at Amit. If you can answer, this particular person is interested in the real world model you used to get your technology in. So I don't know if you can answer that, Amit.
Sure, Mike, I'll try my best. Well, I guess that means, how did we navigate UK, if I follow your question right?
Yeah.
So I would say, I think there were two things, right? Within UK and outside UK. So we had this journey within UK where, if you have a high cost, high value product, you're going to be challenged. You can expect it to be, slightly higher invasiveness from every stakeholder trying to understand what's the value prop here. So you really have to work with them in developing the clinical evidence strategy. And that's what we did. We collaborated with NICE, with NIHR, with couple of leading hospitals in the country that were known for the leadership position in the space of retinal prosthesis or retinal procedures. So that's kind of what we did. We really spent a lot of time going through what will be appropriate for a clinical trial design and how it should be run, what should be the endpoints, what should be the details around follow-up period and so on. So we really kind of had collaborated with them, and it wasn't the most convenient process, if I may put it that way. UK is a very democratic process when it comes to reimbursement. So, and good and bad, because good that you have everyone aligned ahead of time, and you probably are not going to get pushback once you're done with it. The bad part is it just takes so much time to coordinate between so many public stakeholders. And that was it took us about 1.5 years just to get everybody aligned. So it was a pretty rigorous process. That's what we did. And then within UK NHS pathways, one thing to maybe, Mike, you can expand. There's so many different pathways depending on what technology category you fall under. And it took us some time, but eventually we figured out the right pathway for something like this would be NHS Specialized Commissioning, which was an incredible program at that time. I think now it's been redesigned, but that's what we did. Outside of UK, any HTA process, any health tech assessment process we went through, we leveraged everything that NICE did on our technology, the recommendations, and all the comments they made. It was all in writing, and we leveraged that as a hard collateral to demonstrate that this technology works. Here are the upsides, benefits, and also the limitation of evidence, which was, I think, well received by different payers. And we did get coverage in most countries we were pursuing. I hope that answers the question. Thanks, Mike.
That's good, thank you. I think it is complex, and there's different evaluation programs that you have to go to depending on the technology itself. Certainly for new invasive tech treatments like you and Mike brought to market, Mike's technology used steam to ablate tissue, which was a new mode of action or mechanism of action. Your device in implanting retinal prostheses to help people see, very, very cutting edge technologies, and required to go through a program at NICE called interventional procedures, and that particular program only looks at safety and efficacy. It doesn't look at cost at that stage. So that particular program, again, if you've got a brand new mechanism of action, you'd have to get through to show that the technology is safe and effective for use in NHS patients. And then once you've gone through that, you then go on into other programs which show the whether the technology is a good use of NHS resources, and they're called the medical technology guidance programs. But we're happy to have conversations with companies and explain those different mechanisms of assessment that happen here in the UK. So thank you. Other people have been asking how to reach out to the panel. We'll put those up on LinkedIn so you can connect with them directly on LinkedIn, and this will be available on a download podcast. But yeah, well, thank you for everybody for joining. There's no other further questions. We've had some good levels of participants, so thank you those that have listened to this webinar. I just want to wrap up by thanking everybody that's joined. James Lindley from the US Embassy in London, who talked about how they help to help companies to navigate the UK from America and the offices, the regional offices. Jeff, who kindly joined us. I know he's on holiday this week, so I really appreciate his time. He introduced himself to talk about the Department of International Trade, which is a UK organisation that helps companies, come and incorporate in the UK as well, and offer all sorts of services and regional offices all over the place with delightful people. I've known many of them over the years. So thank you so much, Jeff, for joining. Then we were joined by John West. John, a busy NHS manager, looking for technology with huge amounts of patients waiting for elective care, and said, outright that bring us technology that helps us to provide better care pathways across the patient's, care pathway. They're looking for long-term solutions and better ways of keeping people out of hospital, and newer ways of dealing with the health issues that we face in this country. Then we had great to have Mike Kuyak and Amit, both. Mike called in, funnily enough, he's normally in Minneapolis, but he called in from Los Angeles, so he's very close to where Amit is at the moment. But Mike joins and Amit joins, both with great experiences of bringing technologies into the UK. Two very different stories, two very different technologies, but encouraging to hear what it meant for them, and what NICE recommendation and NHS market access meant for their businesses globally, and how easy and how hard and how challenging that was. So great to hear your honest opinions of that. And then wrapping up, we were joined by Dawn Smiles. Great to have you, Dawn. Really appreciate you joining, talking about the faster and easier way that we are going to be looking at the regulatory CE mark, the replacement of the CE mark, the CA mark, and how the NHS, how the UK has become will become a faster country to gain that sort of regulatory approval in. And then finally by James, I know we didn't have a lot of time, but talking about how easy it is to set up a UK company, and the benefits, both governmental support and R&D tax credits that are out there to help companies to succeed and grow here. So thank you so much, everybody, for listening. So this will be on Spotify and probably put the thing up on YouTube as well as the Apple Store. So thanks for everybody's participation, and we should say thanks and goodbye.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you all that attended. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Mike. Cheers. Bye.
Thank you.